Well, welcome. I'm joined by Jason O'Shea, one of the London City Mission team. We're going to be talking about the important issue of knife crime and how the church can respond. Jason, welcome.
Thank you very
really
much.
Good to be
Jason,
with you.
It's nice to be welcomed by you, Jason.
Jason, tell us briefly who you are, what you do.
Jason O'Shea. I lead the ministry team for Operation Forgiveness, which is an early intervention knife crime, youth violence preventative initiative.
Okay, tell us a little bit more about that initiative.
Yeah, we go into schools. So this started about 7 years ago, coming on to 8 years. But the ministry really was birthed when my wife's brother was murdered. He was stabbed and killed in 2010. And both my wife and her mum, so my wife Teo and her mum Sarah, started going into prisons and sharing the ripple effects of his murder. So, it was part of a restorative justice program in prisons. And the prisoners kept coming up with the same thing. And this is in all different types of prisons. And they kept saying, if only someone told me when I was in school about the ripple effects of my actions, I might not be here today. And then I was working for London City Mission, and I was called in one day for a conversation about youth violence, and Operation Forgiveness was born. And we started going into schools. It was like we never thought you could go into schools and have this message, talk about, murder and these kind of things. So it was it wasn't something that we had planned in that sense, but it was something that just came to be. So it's, and we've been doing that for 7 years, going into schools.
Praise God. Tell us a bit more about the reality of knife crime in London and in cities.
Yeah, the reality of let's use the term youth violence.
Yes.
Is something that's always been with us, particularly in London. It's not a new phenomenon. It's not something new. It's something that's always been there. Yeah. However, it has become, through various reasons, so bad now that it is affecting people that are, like recently in Croydon, this the young lady Eliane who was murdered. This is a young girl going to private school on the bus on the way to school, and her story really resonated, particularly with mum, because it was the same situation that you've sent your child off to school at 8 in the morning. At 9, you get in a call that your child has been murdered, and it's and that obviously affected. I was at the vigil, and there was over 1,000 people in Croydon at the vigil. It's affected everybody. We think back to George Floyd and what happened. And again, it was something that resonated with people. Yeah. So we have to look at this as something. Well, okay, look, where can good come from? Something so bad, so tragic. We've seen that happen with Zach's life and Zach's death. Yeah. And we have to see that at this moment in time. What can we do? What can be done?
And it's not a. You've mentioned sort of boys in London. It's not a black-white issue, not a black issue, a black boys issue, is it? And the stats show us that,
even though the media would really paint a different picture, it's absolutely not. So every single report, and I've read reports, and because I have to be able to back up what I'm saying. Yeah. So I do a lot of research, and every single report, whether it's the government or justice, whoever it is, will always say that ethnicity is not a driver. It is not a driver. Someone's ethnicity is not a driver towards youth violence. The drivers are poverty, children that are in care, abused, things that have, it's basically adverse childhood experiences, what they would call ACE children. It's things that have happened. In fact, one report said that 91% of young offenders had suffered abuse or loss when they were younger. They fitted into that category. So most definitely not. We just got to look at Scotland.
Absolutely, yeah.
Scotland's Glasgow was referred to as the murder capital of Europe. And their knife crime problem was far worse. It was so bad, the government treated it as a public health issue, and they approached it as if it was a disease, and they implemented strategies that they learned from, I believe, Chicago, and they implemented these strategies, and they reduced what you would call knife crime by over 60%. Yeah. So we know early intervention works. We have all the evidence. Early intervention works. We've known that for almost a decade. Yeah. But we are still in a position in London. So I would say ethnicity is most certainly, it's not a driver, but it definitely, evidently has affected the response to youth violence, which is heartbreaking, and it is something that needs to be addressed. But I think we need to get in and do what we know works.
Well, I love what you're saying there. We need to think about what can we do in response, and what can we do that we know works. And the evidence, as you say, shows that early intervention works. We're going to hear from Mum and Mum Sarah and Teo, your wife, Zach's story now. Okay. And this is part of what you use to go into schools, because we know that this sort of thing works. So let's cross over now and hear that story.
He was happy. It was a very sunny day. He had his uniform on and he left. He went to school, I think about 8 to get to school for 8:30. And the house phone rang, and it was a teacher. And she said I should sit down. And I said, why? She said there's been an incident in the school. And she said, Zach's been stabbed. And I screamed. And my younger daughter just came back from uni. She was in her room. She heard me scream. And she rushed down. She said, Mom, what happened? And I said, the teacher just called me to say Zach has been stabbed. So we ran out of the house, both of us. I can't even tell you how we got to the school. But when we got to the school from the road has been cordoned off, and police officers all over the place, police cars everywhere, and there was ambulance, and I rushed into the cordon, and as I was coming, some of the students must have seen me, pointed to the police officer that is Zach's mom. And I said, I want to see him. Where is my son? And he said I should come down. So he put us in his van, and he drove us to the hospital. When we got to the hospital, we were asked to sit down in a little room, and I couldn't sit down. I said, I want to see my son. And the nurse that was looking after us said, I can't see him. But she went and she came back again. She said, I will allow you to see him because he's been out for 45 minutes. In case he comes around, he might be in a vegetative state. So he took us to where he was being treated. But when we got there, we couldn't see, I didn't see my son. I said, where is my son? But they're treating him because his chest was opened and we couldn't see his face. So he said, that is Zach. And my daughter screamed, that's not my brother. And I passed out. They carried me, they put me on a stretcher, and they placed me next to him. And about 5 minutes, they called the time, and he was pronounced dead. He's not only my son, he was my friend.
I remember that morning it was a Friday morning, and it was really hot, and I was rushing to get myself and my children ready for school. And Zach usually came into my room to use my comb, which was really annoying. But that morning I remember he didn't come in, so I didn't see him that morning. And I left for work, dropped my kids to school, and then I got into work, made a cup of tea. I looked at my phone and I had a text from my sister, and she said, Zach has been stabbed. And so that was, I don't know why, but in my head at that time I thought, oh my goodness, he's been stabbed in the leg and he must be really scared because he doesn't like pain, and I just need to call him and speak to him and tell him it will be all right, and I'm leaving work and I'm going to be with you. And so I got my phone and I rang him, and his phone just rang, and it just felt like ice, in my heart. I just suddenly started thinking, okay, maybe this is worse than I thought. I called him again and he didn't answer. So I left work and I tried to get a cab. There were no cabs. I jumped on the bus, but it was the wrong bus, and I was just trying to keep in contact at the time with my sisters to find out what was going on. And then I remember being on one bus, and then my little sister, who was with my mum at the time, she said that the nurse had said that there was a slim chance that he would survive. And at that point, I realised the seriousness of it, and I was just praying to God, please save my brother, please save my brother, please. And then I arranged with my sister to meet her. She was driving, so I could get to the hospital as well. And then I got in the car, and she started to try and drive to the hospital. And we know the way to the hospital, but we just got lost and we're going down all these wrong roads. My phone rang, and it was my little sister's number. But to this day, I don't know if it was my sister who spoke, because there was just a sound on the end of the phone and it just didn't sound human. The person said, "He's dead." And I just remember feeling like someone punched me in the stomach. Yeah, I couldn't breathe. And then my sister was crying and she was trying to drive, and it was just the worst experience of my life. And then we got to the hospital and she couldn't find anywhere to park, and I just got out of the car and I just ran into the hospital, into the A&E department, and I said my brother's name, and they just took me back. And when I went into that little room and I saw my mum's face, I knew that my brother was really dead. When he died, it felt like a bomb had gone off in our family. It totally destroyed us, to be completely honest. Because Zach was like the heart and the soul of the family, and the way he died, the fact that he was gone was just, it ripped us apart. My mum, she got really ill, lost lots of weight. All Zach's nieces and nephews had to have counselling. His friends had to have counselling. Some of them moved away. The people at the school were affected, the teachers. My older sister, 8 months pregnant. A month later, she gave birth in the same hospital that Zach died in, and her daughter was stillborn. Zach was the youngest of us 8 children, so when he died, we felt a lot of guilt. We felt like it was our job to protect him, and we felt like we didn't do that. We felt like we should have been there and helped him, so we struggled with a lot of guilt relating to that. My son was nearly 7 at the time that Zach died, and he started to wet himself at school. And so when he was spoken with about, why he was wetting himself, we found out that it was only happening on a Friday, and he wet himself because he was scared to go to the toilet, because he thought that the boys who had killed my brother would come back and would kill him. So his understanding of what had happened was, he was filled with a lot of fear for his own safety. The ambulance service were affected, the police, the community around our home who'd watched Zach grow up. So many people were affected.
It's an incredibly powerful story, Jason. Could you tell us something about the role and power of forgiveness in this issue of serious youth violence?
Yeah. So in our family story, we see that mum, during the court case, struggled with hating these boys that had murdered her son, her baby of 8, her best friend. And she struggled with hating them. And when I say struggled, that she wrestled, like, I'm supposed to hate them. But she actually, didn't have those feelings towards them. And she had recently become a Christian, and she knew she needed to forgive them, and she had to forgive them. And what Mum says is that she believes that Jesus lived, that he died, and that he rose again. And because he rose again, that gave her hope that she was going to see her son again. And from that, she was able to forgive these boys and to have that actual action of saying to us, now I forgive them. They weren't sorry. There's no remorse. They're laughing and joking. But during that process, during that time, she was able to forgive them.
Yeah.
And that's probably what saved her life. Being able to forgive, being able to let go of all the anger, the bitterness, the vengeance, all of this stuff that was just completely eating her and destroying her, and she was able to let go of this.
Yeah.
My wife's journey was very different. She'd also become a Christian recently, and the Christian message is, forgive. All right, you've been forgiven, so forgive. But again, she felt, well, God, no way would God expect me to forgive these boys for murdering my little brother. I'm supposed to protect my little brother. There's no way. And as time went on, she became very bitter, very, 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 very angry, and there came a point when our daughter came and hugged her, who was about 3 at the time, and hugged her. And Teo distinctively remembers not feeling any emotion, not feeling any love.
Right.
And she realized, if I continue holding on to this unforgiveness, my daughter could grow up with no love and become the sort of person that could take her life when she's older. And that was the catalyst. No, I need to forgive. And she started her journey, and they both arrived at that place of forgiveness. We teach this in schools. We teach about having a forgiving attitude. And the importance of it is because it will change your trajectory of your life. If you're carrying the bitterness, the vengeance, the anger, and you're carrying these things, it will affect you and what you're doing. What Mum says is that it's like a poisonous snake that comes and bites you and put the poison in you, and then you run around trying to kill the snake while the poison's killing you. What you need to do is get the poison out.
Yeah.
So it's really having a real understanding of what forgiveness means. Because all my life, I felt that if you say you forgive, it's like it's saying it's okay and you're letting them off. And that person needs to grovel and say sorry, and then you say, I forgive you. That's not what it is. Well, the forgiveness, what we're teaching is the letting go of the anger, letting go of the vengeance, letting go of the bitterness. And as Christians, it's something that we believe we're told to do. The Bible says that vengeance is mine, says the Lord. So it's to let go, and that's not easy.
No,
because the perpetrator, you can be living their best life, and you're thinking to yourself, what? I'm forgiving them, and they're just carrying on. They don't care. And you want justice, and you want to see, and something that, when you forgive someone, justice is important.
Yeah.
There might be a small thing that you can forgive and forget and keep it moving. But for most things, when someone has done something bad, there needs to be justice. So to forgive them doesn't mean they didn't need to go to prison. There needed to be justice, and whatever the legal system says that is. So forgiveness is a key. It's key to what we teach. We're teaching these children. I learned when I was 46 about forgiveness. We're teaching them at this age. This could literally change the trajectory of their life. And we also, obviously, we're trauma informed. We know about child protection, so this is all done in a very sound way. And the young people are told that no one's allowed to hurt you. Just because you forgive someone doesn't mean they're allowed to hurt you. If someone's hurting you, and I'd say this for big people as well, if someone's hurting you, if you're in a situation where it's an abusive situation or someone's hurting you, you may decide you want to forgive that person, but you most certainly do not stay in that situation. You must tell someone.
Yeah.
And for our young people, we establish they have a trusted adult in their life at the beginning of the session, and at this point we remind them, remember that trusted adult, you need to tell them if someone's hurting you. No one is allowed to hurt you. So forgiveness doesn't mean it's okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it's all right, and it's not dependent on the person. It's got nothing to do with them, the person who's caused the wrong. It's you letting go of all of the negativity. So forgiveness is very key to the message. And both Mum and Teo tell their stories on video about their journeys to forgiveness.
Yeah.
So the young people get to hear that.
What kind of impact have you seen from that story of forgiveness being told? And you've Operation Forgiveness has been running now for some years, and you've had the chance to go into a number of schools, a number of different contexts to share that story. What sort of impact have you seen?
So when we get to the point of forgiveness, because what we do with the young people, we explain what forgiveness, what it means to forgive, so they get an understanding of what forgiveness is and what it isn't. They see a very, very real, extreme, practical example of forgiveness and the impacts. They've also learned about the ripple effects of people's actions and the negative ripples. And once we've gone through that, we then give them an opportunity to exercise what they've learned, so they get the opportunity to forgive someone. So we say to the young people to close their eyes, and this is for privacy. So I always say to them, but they'll get to close their eyes and put their heads down on their laps, and we say to them, is there someone in your life you need to forgive? And we make some suggestions. It could be an absent parent, could be something small like your brother or your sister done something, could be someone at school, it might be something major. Remember, and no one's allowed to hurt you. If someone's hurting you, you must tell that trusted adult. But is there anyone you need to forgive? Just put your hand up and then put it back down again. And then we repeat these things and just talk them through it. And you see these hands go up, including teachers. And you see the hands go up where they're recognizing, I'm carrying this unforgiveness and I need to let it go, because I can see from this session today of the damage this will cause me if I don't.
When I had that reflection on closing my eyes, I think I'm going to forgive some people because I think it will help me a lot.
I feel like that since it's really hard to forgive people, so say like somebody like pushed you on accident in like the playground or whatever, now that I've heard this, I should forgive them a lot easier.
It was very touching, and it made me think like I'm not the only Christian in the world, because I am a Christian, and what I agreed with every single thing that Jason said about like forgiveness and the fact that Jesus loves us.
The children seemed so engaged. It was lovely to see the sort of intensity in which that they were listening and learning from those experiences and really reflecting on what was being said. I think the key messages have really been heard today, and it'll be exciting to talk to the children after the session and see how much kind of what their views are and how they've reflected on it.
One of the most impactful, and it's the same story I will always repeat, was this young girl who had told me she wanted to share, and I said, okay, what is it? She said, I want to forgive the man that killed my mum. And I just melted on the spot, man. I'm like, what do you do with that? Like, wow, it is so powerful. So before sessions, we've done little surveys where we've said, would you carry a knife or do you carry a knife? And then at the end of the session, we asked the same question. After today's session, would you ever consider carrying a knife? And the answer is always no way. And I think for these young people, when they hear the impact, they hear it, and it's being told by someone who's heard it firsthand from mum and from Teo. So they hear the impact and the ripple effects of their actions of carrying a knife. We talk about the dangers of carrying a knife. One, you could be arrested, up to 4 years in prison for carrying a knife. 2, you might bring a knife into a situation where there wasn't one. That person started on you, but they might take it off you and use it on you, which happens. And then the third one, which is the one for me, the imagine that you did carry enough to protect yourself, and then someone started and you ended up taking their life. Imagine the ripple effects of taking someone's life. And that really sinks in. I use a lot of pausing when I do it with them, and it really hits home because they've heard the ripples. They've probably shed tears during the session because of the ripples, and then they have that realization of, if I carry a knife, there's a chance I might end up taking someone's life. So I can't imagine any child, unless they go through more trauma after experience Operation Forgiveness, I can't imagine any of them start making this conscious decision to carry a knife in their life.
Wow.
So yeah, so it is powerful. It's powerful.
It is powerful. It is powerful. How does Operation Forgiveness bring in the gospel to that presentation? Yeah,
so obviously we're in schools, and we're not going in there to convert them and make them believe what we believe or anything else. We are sharing our story. We are RE Hub approved. So that means to be RE Hub approved, it means it's not an RE lesson. It means we know the language to speak. So the language we speak with, like, we as Christians believe, and then we can share what we believe. The gospel is absolutely key to our story because it is the catalyst that mum believed that Jesus rose again. So she's going to see her son again. And that gave her the hope and the strength to be able to forgive these boys, and it is a key to our story. So we make sure we explain it properly. We explain the gospel properly. We use the 2 ways to live, and we've adapted it with the young people to act, and so it's explained in a very sound way, and we're very clear with our language.
Gospel outline, the 2 ways to live. Yeah.
So anybody in there is going to hear the gospel very clearly, but they also hear from us. You make your own decision in life. We're not telling you what you must believe. You believe what you want. This is what we believe.
Yeah.
And we are able to do that. It's in a respectful way. It's accessible to everybody. This is not just church schools. Every non-faith school we've been into has invited us back in time after time to deliver this, and they're happy with it. And I can't imagine anyone in the world would have the audacity to say to mum, "You need to take this bit out of your story." So, yeah,
it's an integral part, and
it's vital.
Presumably, you see a range of responses to that as people hear the gospel. Incorporated in there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Look, tell us how Operation Forgiveness can give churches a way of tackling knife crime.
Yeah, so the church is so well equipped to really impact youth violence, like on such a big level. We're in a position now that we've put a package together, videos and a teacher's booklet. And when I say put it together, we haven't put it together in 5 minutes. This took 7 years to get to this point. Yeah. And we've at London City Mission have got an amazing team of professionals that have helped to really home this in. So it's on point. So we've got this booklet, this whole teacher's pack, and we are training churches so that they can send teams of 2 to 3 people into their local schools. Great for the church because you're able to connect with your local school, particularly primary schools. And all we're asking the church is take a day off. To give us a day, Saturday for your training. Take 1 day off in the year, and you're going to go in and reach a class of up to 30 children. Huh. And the hope is they would do a lot more than that. But that's the wide goalpost of what we're asking them to do. So we do a vision night. So for anybody who's going to go to the training has to experience it firsthand. Yeah. So they're not just telling this sad story from YouTube. They're telling something that they've heard personally. Yeah. This is personal, and then they're going in and they get the training and they go in and share it. Oh. So this can really mobilise the churches on such a big level.
And what I love about that is it's so simple. It's not asking them to sign up for weeks and weeks. It's a small commitment that can make a massive difference.
Absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining us, Jason. It's been a blessing. We'd love for you to have the opportunity to experience Operation Forgiveness for yourself. And if you'd like to do that, the best way is to attend one of the vision nights that you've heard Jason talk about. They happen regularly around the year, often at Naismith House on Tower Bridge Road. And you can find out the details by visiting the website operationforgiveness.org.uk. And that will be up to date with when and where those are happening.